Good morning, everyone. Aloha. It's Monday, November 18th. Wow. Hey, aloha, everyone. This is Jason Schwartz here at the Neutral Zone, MauiNeutralZone.com. You can find us up on the web there. You can also find us on YouTube at Dream Maui and the number 1. And I have a really terrific guest today. You know, many of you on radio are missing the visual part of this, and today's one of those days where you're going to want to look at the internet afterwards, not only to hear the show again, but to see the images of these structures. I have Miguel Elliott with me. Migz, is that a nickname you've been using?
That's right. Migz, I like nicknames. Migz is my nickname.
Migz. You have been doing building of structures, and many people that hear about this immediately light up. They're like, wow. Some of you have ever heard of a cob? Well, we're going to let Miguel give you a picture of what he's been doing here on Maui.
Okay, good. Let's have a conversation. Thanks for inviting me in to share the wonderful world of cob. Happy to share it. So first of all, let's just jump right into what cob is, just to kind of educate y'all about that. So the word cob, it's similar to adobe, right? So most people know what adobe construction is, right? So it's sand, clay, straw. It's estimated that about half of the structures built on the planet, even still, are built out of earth, out of clay. And so what cob is actually an Old English word. It means a rounded lump of mass. That's the definition of cob. Oh. So back in Old England, 700 years ago, there were whole villages and towns all built out of cob. The rich people, the poor people, they all had cob homes, right? And so they would form these round balls together and then throw them up on the people, to the people standing on the wall. They'd put it into the wall. The walls would be about 18 inches thick. And then it dries in the sun. And then when it dries, they do a lime plaster over it to protect it from the water. And many of these structures are still being lived in 700 years later, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So kind of longer than any wood or cement structures. So these structures are really built to last, right? So they're super, super durable. And so I've been doing this since the mid-'90s, really. Since '96, I started down the path of cob. And I've been pretty much doing it nonstop since then. So I've built at least probably now about over 300 structures out of cob. And
all over the world.
All over the world. I've done it in Africa. I've done it in India. I've done it in Thailand, South America, Central America, Mexico, Italy, all over.
And the United States.
Oh yeah.
Let's
Chicago.
not forget those guys.
Yeah, I built an organic nightclub in Chicago.
Wow.
Called the Butterfly Social Club. I built a yoga studio in Chicago. Yeah, and I do a lot of workshops too. So I teach people how to use the local earth to build structures. And so for many years, I was just doing solid cob houses. And so, a cob house doesn't have any wooden framework, right? So you just pile up the cob, and the walls would be really thick, and then you put the roof right over these thick earthen walls, and it's great. It's a great way to build. It takes a lot of material and a lot of people, and it takes a lot of time. And, building inspectors don't really like structures where the roof is sitting, right on the earthen walls. They like to have some kind of wooden frame to support it. So back in 2012, I was down in Argentina, and a friend of mine had a sister, and her 3 kids and her were sleeping in a tent, and the rainy season was a month away, and they had no money at all. And so my friend and I spent a month building his sister a house. And we just hey, we got to build her a house, and as fast as we can, cheap. We didn't have much money at all. And so we got some pallets. We put those upright, and we got the local clay, put that over the pallets, and put plastic bottles and some clothes in the walls for insulation. And in a month, we had a house built for her, and she was able to move in. And the first night she moved in, it just pouring rain, and so it was. So then I was like, oh, this is so much faster to do than a full-on cob or adobe house, and I could do this with one other guy, and we have a house built in a month for not very much money at all. And that was 2012, and she's still living in it. I've gotten an update about 6 months ago, and she sent me a picture of the house, and it's doing great. No problem at all. And the kids actually helped build it and things.
How big kind of structure?
So that was small. I mean, so that was a 2-story structure. It was about 120 square feet or so.
2 stories.
It was
so
2
you
story.
can build this to a second story.
Oh, sure.
If you want.
Yeah. We had a loft, a big loft.
And I've seen pictures in your book. You have what's your web address? Let everyone know.
Oh, I have two websites. Okay, so my service for years has been Living Earth Structures, right? livingearthstructures.com, and that website's still up, and that goes into all the stuff I was doing, in California and more international projects. My current website is Cob on Maui, and Cob is 1B, C-O-B. So cobonmaui.com. And so that shows, pictures of the house I just built in Lahaina, as well as a lot of structures I've been doing in haiku. And it's good to be able to demonstrate that this is possible in haiku and Huelo, because it rains a lot more there.
Yeah.
And
so most people wouldn't think that they could put up clay and sand and straw,
right,
and it resists rain.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that the lime plaster?
It's the lime plaster, yeah. So, so like beginning of this year, January 1st, the first day of this year, I worked on starting to build a little, I call it a cabin, right? So I started building a cabin in haiku, and I worked on, I framed it first, got my uprights in, I got my pallets in, and then I framed in my windows, and then I did the roof, with a nice overhang, and then I was protected from the rain. And so there were many days that it would be pouring rain, but I was inside putting the cob on the walls, and I wasn't affected by the rain at all. And then outside, I'd wait for it was a sunny day, put the cob on the wall, and then it would take about a week for it to dry, because I'm only putting about an inch of the earthen plaster over the pallets, right? And then once it's dry, then I do my lime plaster and a lime wash, and then that protects it from the water. And you can also, just for aesthetic purposes, to get whatever color you like, and to help protect it, you can also do a regular paint over the lime plaster too. And most natural builders don't do that, and you're kind of breaking some of the rules of natural building, because then you're kind of using some chemicals, which I usually try to avoid. But it does protect the structure forever, and it is compatible with a lime wash too. For the inside, I always do a clay plaster, like a nice earthen clay plaster. And just energetically, the vibrations of that feels really nice. And the walls, is the texture of it, nice and smooth, and it's very comforting and very warm feeling. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So to me, that when you talk about Lahaina, I think all of us on Maui know we had a wildfire last year. I call it wild, no political commentary. Fire. In August of 2023. And Lahaina is a special case in that it's an emergency zone. Mm-hmm. So with construction, construction is everywhere, but in that area, thinking to build structures mean if we have all the construction going on and we need more workers, when you bring them in, you have to have structures.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait a minute, what are we going to do and not keep bringing in people and this seems like a never-ending problem. So this could be really interesting as a solution.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So like the one that you built in Lahaina now, it's maybe how many square feet?
Oh, it's small. It's a tiny house. It's 9 by 12. It's basically an alternative to a shipping container. But I made it this small so that it can actually be picked up and moved, right? I see. I built a village in Oakland years ago called Cob on Wood. And so this is the designs that I did on that. I'm kind of duplicating that design in Lahaina, and so I made them so they have a skid, like a space below for a forklift to pick it up and put it on a trailer and make it mobile if it needs to be. So that
doesn't have a problem with braking.
No. I've had these on trailers driving around the back of my truck for years without any issue at all. Yeah.
Wow. So because of the pallets inside and not being solid, it's
Yeah.
lighter.
Right. Exactly. That too. That too. Yeah. And but it has just enough earth on the walls so it has some mass to keep it cool in the summertime. So that few inches of earth that are over the pallets, it does keep out the heat. So it really helps a lot. So people are always amazed at how much cooler the structure in Lahaina is. So we have a shipping container on the property. You go inside that and it's just hot as an oven. It's just so uncomfortable. And you go inside the cabin and it's comfortably cool inside. Yeah. Yeah, you came out there to see it.
I went out to see it and I was like, wow, I want this on the show for everyone.
Right.
You on radio, you're going to have to go to cobonmaui.com and take a look. Or you can call Migz and such also. We are very fortunate. So when I was out there and looking, my first reaction was, wow, this is great. Let's now say I'm going to roll the thing. Here now, time has gone on, and someone who wanted to build on their property, but they can't find a construction team out and available, and things are going to take forever, and they don't particularly want to be in these, if they're fortunate enough to get a place to live, and they don't particularly like the fact they feel like they're gypsies, sort of, and ragtag, and they like to get back to their property. This could be a terrific.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Thanks for bringing that up. So this is actually a great solution for somebody who wants to have a temporary house while they're waiting for their main house to be built, right?
And even if later they said, hey, this could be our
hopefully, if that can
shed.
actually become, or maybe even their
could
permanent
do.
residence. I mean, if it's, So, and I've been to some of the meetings out there in Lahaina, some of the community meetings where that question has been asked, like, hey, do I need a permit to build a little tiny house on my property while I'm waiting for my main house to be built? And the person facilitating the meeting said, no, we're not going to be regulating that. So it's a really good opportunity now to demonstrate some good alternative building techniques. And also because of the emergency shelter crisis declaration that was passed after the fires, it basically makes the government exempt from any liability associated with the construction. And so people can build small little emergency sleeping cabins, without the permits.
Well, someone might wonder whether this is the kind of thing that could collapse on them, but it's.
No. If you look at my website, there's pictures of the school I built in Florida. It's we built 5 classrooms, 320 square feet each. Wow. And each one was, framed out of pallets, and we put the clay over it. And those have already survived 3 hurricanes now.
Wow.
Strong, like category 4 or 5 hurricanes. So they're definitely built to last. If you protect them right, kind of the 3 rules to ensure a cob structure's longevity is it needs a good pair of boots, a good jacket, and a good hat. Right? If it's got all those 3 things, the foundation, a plaster, and a roof, there's no reason why it won't last forever. And it's great because it's also fire resilient too. So a fire just makes the wall stronger, really. It turns into ceramic, right? So I build, clay ovens all the time, wood-fired ovens. And, the hotter it gets, the more exposed it gets to fire, the stronger it gets.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I saw you built kind with a bathtub and all kinds of way to heat water. It's
exactly. In Florida, I built a restaurant where you have an oven, and then we have this big canal with a current, and you can put the pizzas cooked in the oven on the water on a boat, and it floats on the moat in a big circle, and so people can sit around the circle and have a nice communal dining experience instead of sitting at separate tables. And I've done hot tubs out of the materials.
Very exciting to see. And I think once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's like, wait a minute,
right.
Why aren't we doing more of these?
Exactly. I was exposed to this back in '96. I saw a video. It was called Building with the Earth, right? It was by the Cobb Cottage Company out of Oregon. And really, it was put out by the kind of the pioneer of cob construction in America is a man named Ianto Evans. He's from England. He's from Wales. And he came over and he brought this technique of building that they've been doing in Wales for hundreds of years to Oregon. and he started doing workshops, and so I was exposed to his work through a video called Building with the Earth, and that was my first exposure to Cobb. And so then I would take this video, put it in people's VCRs and say, hey, check this out. Isn't this amazing? And so, yeah, once I was exposed to it, then I call it Cobb-verted, and I've been doing it since. In my book, I list the 50 reasons of why it's good to Cobb. And I was actually knighted as Sir Cobalot back in 2012 when I declared my dedication to promoting the natural building movement. And I'd say I've pretty much stayed true to my vow. Yeah, and so I'm I'd say, committed to the Cobb.
Well, and the fact that these structures are so strong and can last so long, is really great. And the fact that they are, in my mind, in like a Lahaina area, I can't imagine why this wouldn't be. I don't know how the government works, what they're doing with their money, but I sure know this could be.
Yeah, I mean, we could. Yeah, Jason. I mean, we could even actually do full-on adobe structures in Lahaina, because it doesn't rain very much there. Right. So if we had a crew of people making clay bricks, we could, and the clay in Lahaina is so good for building too. Actually, in most parts of Maui, all in Haiku, in Paia, in Huelo, in Kihei, it's good all over. And so we could, but especially good in Lahaina, and we could be making bricks. We could have whole brick yards, and people can come out and buy a brick for $3 a brick or something. And then, once you have all the bricks made, I've built a house in Thailand. I built a house for about $80 in materials, and it took us about 4 hours to put the walls up.
Wow.
And this was a house for a man, his wife, and 2 kids, and it's still there. That was over 20 years ago, and so, and the great thing about the adobe bricks is that, of course, it's super well insulated because it has all the mass. You have all that natural air conditioning, so you don't need electricity for the air conditioning. It's antimicrobial, so mold isn't an issue, which, in Lahaina that's not an issue, but in Haiku area it is. So, but it doesn't mold. Termites don't like it. Termites can't really, and once you put your plaster over it, and especially it has a little salt water, if you can get some salt water from the ocean and add that to the mix, that actually helps to prevent it from termites.
Wow.
And also the magnesium in the ocean actually helps to strengthen the Cobb also. And then, my tagline is working with the local Aina to rebuild Lahaina, right? Yeah. So it's and it's just using all locally sourced building materials too. We don't want to be importing cinder blocks from the mainland and paying all that money and the cinder blocks burn too. There was a lot of concrete houses that burned in the fires.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I don't know if I even knew that. Mm-hmm. Concrete burns?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. It crumbles. It just falls apart. But actually in California where I was living, back in 2018, we had the Tubbs fire, the big Tubbs fire in Sonoma County. And most of the houses, in, kind of the western side of Santa Rosa burned, but there was a couple houses out of straw bale houses. I know the people who built them, and the fire went right up to the porch, burnt the porch and the wood post on the porch, but it didn't burn the house. The walls are completely intact. Wow. Because of the clay plaster, the lime, the fire, the straw bale is non-combustible. So it's so that's a pretty good testimony. So I think after a fire like this, where there's so much conversation about how the toxicity of these houses that are burning and all the remediation that has to happen to kind of clean out those sites. They're toxic sites now. Yeah. You would think that there would be some considerations of, let's maybe, try using other materials other than these toxic formaldehyde-laced wood and, the chemicals that are in the insulation and the cement and the paints and whereas the structures that I'm building, there's absolutely nothing toxic about them at all. They're all natural. And so I think it'd be amazing if we could actually have, like a neighborhood in Lahaina that was dedicated to demonstrating some of these good, innovative, smart building designs.
And besides that kind of special, imagine if a whole neighborhood of people built these while they're waiting for their
right,
other structures. Because a great model.
Right, and that's actually something I wanted to bring up too.
Yeah.
A disadvantage, I would say, of these structures is that it's labor intensive, right? So it does take labor. The biggest cost of the structure of the project is the labor involved. So when I was doing this in Lahaina, I was pretty much doing it by myself. I mean, a couple times people came out to help a little bit. But, if I had a crew of people, if I had 10 people working with me, it would go up way faster. We could probably get the whole thing cobbed in a weekend. Right. And so that's what we were doing in Oakland when I was building the village there. It was amazing how fast we were building these structures. And so I would love to partner up with a group like Habitat for Humanity,
There you go.
or some kind of organization. We could call it Habitats for Humanity. But some organization that has connections with a volunteer workforce that want to help, even tourists who want to come and help and be involved in some of the rebuilding efforts. And basically, if have a system in place where if you participate and help somebody build their house and do that sweat equity, then you're guaranteed to have help building your house when you're ready, right? And just kind of have a wheel.
That to me could be a really terrific thing, and also, because there's going to be so much building going on, a lot of the younger people that are here could learn this kind of a thing through you,
right.
and really keep doing this for
right.
build more Sir Cobalots.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's also there's a whole mental health component to it also, right? So a lot of the people who've been lost their homes are struggling with a lot of mental health issues and just the depression and all the struggles that goes with losing your home and losing everything and having to bounce around from hotels and tents and vans. I mean, it's stressful. So, being involved in a process, an activity where they're actually participating and helping to build their own house with other people, it can break some of those cycles of alienation a lot of people have. And, it can be fair. They're very therapeutic and healing. So I call it earth therapy, right? Earth therapy, because in the process of working with the earth, it's a therapeutic modality, activity, and it just feels really good. So it's addressing some of the mental health issues people might have while building the house. So it's not just building houses; it's also building community and building character development and so it's all encompassing. And it's very, very, good for the body. And again, I list this in my book, and I have the list of 50 reasons of why it's good to build on my website, cobonmaui.com, and also on the Living Earth Structures website.
Well, I'm going to read from this list a little bit. There are so many good reasons to do this. It just amazes me. I imagine that, have you talked to any government, like FEMA, those people? I know they take forever, an EPA, to approve things. There are solutions that people have had for things that are 25 years old, and the EPA,
right.
and they haven't done approvals on these things.
Right. I mean, after disasters, there's always such an abundance of pallets everywhere.
Yeah.
And here on Maui, I drive by and I see piles of pallets everywhere, and businesses are trying to, get rid of them. And so I'm actually doing businesses a favor by taking them.
Right.
So, so we could, so I think I haven't actually talked to FEMA yet. I've been kind of waiting to have the house in Lahaina complete, which it is. It's finished now. At least the sleeping space is complete. And so, so now I'm ready to start sharing it.
And I imagine you're going to have help as people discover what you're doing. They can come and assist you in that process, because we've been immersed in this issue, this problem now, better than a year. So I bet we have some local people that know how to navigate through FEMA. Yeah,
well, I did a post, last week on the Lahaina Strong Facebook group, and it's got over 70,000 likes and 8,000 shares and thousands of comments. And
isn't that extraordinary?
Yeah, so there's clearly a lot of interest. I mean, I could basically take that as a petition and present that to any government official and say, hey, look, there's clearly public support, for demonstrating this kind of alternative building, I'm pretty sure that structure that I did is the first completed, livable, habitable structure in Lahaina that was built. it's small. It's a tiny house, so it's not, one of like the big house, but somebody's sleeping in it now and they're using it, and it's just, it's right smack in the middle of the Lahaina Luna burn zone.
Yeah.
So it really kind of stands out.
When I went there, I just happened to be there the day before they opened up Lahaina Luna Road and let people go all the way down and up. So this is right at, I want to say, the epicenter.
It was. Yeah, I mean, while we were constructing, they still had Army Corps of Engineer crews out there removing burnt cars and trucks and garbage, and right next to us.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty dramatic. So it's but already people have definitely taken interest. There are new houses being popped up around there now, and some of the construction crews have been checking it out, showing their interest, and kind of just seeing how much fun I'm having over there working. And I have friends coming over, and we sculpt trees on the walls and paint flowers on it, and it's not your typical construction site. We're playing when we're working, and that actually in my book, I do list the number one reason that I do it is that it's fun. That's in my other book, actually. And it is. I mean, and I think we need to be putting that kind of energy into the structures. Because it really is an opportunity to help, bridge people together, and is a nice community activity. And I also often build ovens. I do like wood-fired pizza ovens, and that's just using the local clay, and that's a great way of bringing people together and work, and then we can celebrate what I call our accomplishments with some pizza, that we are cooking in a clay oven that we built.
I really like the idea that as it heats up, it gets stronger.
Right.
That is huge to me.
Right. And there's ovens hundreds of years old that are in Europe that are still being used now. There's absolutely nothing that would destroy a clay oven.
I can think of all kinds of people that would love to have an outdoor clay oven and have that as part of their world.
Yeah, for any farm, you have you got your tomatoes, you got your peppers, your basil, your garlic, whatever. You cook your pizza.
Factory.
Yeah, exactly. And you can cook squash, potatoes, anything you bake in a regular oven, you can cook in a wood-fired oven. It'll just come out tasting way better and have a lot more soul. And for outdoor, people here on Maui love their outdoor entertaining and dining, and I often do benches around the oven, so it's a nice, kind of seating area.
Everything I've seen you do has taste and real class. I really just have appreciated you people who are on radio or TV. Either don't have pictures. We're gonna intersperse some pictures so you're going to see as we're going.
Yeah, one of my favorite designs is I call it a cob zebo. So,
Yeah, this is a fun one.
Yeah, so
I
that's
don't know if you can see, but we're going to put pictures up.
Right.
Imagine a structure with a roof on top
with a
garden.
Yeah, so you can put flowers and vegetables and herbs on the roof. And, by doing that, it actually stays cooler in the summertime. And, there's a...
Wow. Yeah. You guys will want to look at all this stuff.
Yeah.
Raised garden bed.
And there's also, I created a Facebook group too. There's a Cob on Maui Facebook group. And so, I invite people to check that out. You can go to the Cob on Maui, and on Instagram, I'm Sir Cobalot on Instagram. And so you can check out my stuff there. And on YouTube, I have hundreds of videos on YouTube. It's Migz Cobalot is my station. And I do instructional videos showing people how to do it, from start to finish. But I am available to build these. That's I would like to teach people.
The fact that you've done so many to me is really good. I don't know if people want to go out and start doing it themselves if they haven't done it before. I would surely want someone like yourself.
Well, what would be amazing is if we could actually standardize this design. If the county does approve, say, hey, you know what? Yeah, we agree. It makes a lot of sense to build structures using recycled wood, using the local INA to use, especially if it's fireproof and waterproof and well insulated and cheap and dirt cheap, I call it. And so, if they do approve it, well, if somebody could get the, say, okay, yes, you can build one of these, but you have to be trained. And I would encourage that.
Sure.
So then they could come to me. We could have a place, ideally in Lahaina, where people can come, and we do maybe a 2-week-long workshop where we build one, and then that becomes a livable space for somebody.
Sure.
And then the person, the people participating, they are then certified to be able to build their own. So it's kind of a certification program. And then the product of our workshop would be a livable space. And so if we can get something like that going, that would be great. And then we standardize the design. They could be made mobile or stationary. Ideally, we do stationary. So then if we do stationary, then we could do round houses, which I prefer to do because it just feels really nice to be in a round space opposed to square. But if it's round, then it's harder to make it mobile, and you have to, have it on the ground, and which is So, but if it's square, then you could actually pick it up and move it, right? But I'm hoping that we can actually, if we can get enough people in Lahaina that are supportive of this design, then we can have a bunch of these in Lahaina instead of a shipping container. Nobody wants to see a bunch of shipping containers and mobile homes, on empty lots. But if we had a bunch of cabins, then it would be beautiful, and it would give a real sense of hope.
And create I was going to say, a sense of hope.
Yeah, right.
And also that it could become, I don't know, because every time we want to build something, we don't have enough labor here that we have to bring it in. This would be a really terrific solution, and build community like probably many people have never done before. When I was little, just a few years ago, of course, we knew all our neighbors in the area. Now people have more and more isolated. This is a great way to get that social thing, and if everyone's helping each other build their structures, and then if in time, they're building this community out the way that either the way it was or now with the new revelations in a better way. Isn't that what we're trying to do? Build back better? I don't. Oh God! I almost said the word Trump.
Oh no!
Yeah. By the way, we have a new president coming up.
Yeah, but
we are at that time.
But there is Kennedy, and Kennedy, he's been here to Lahaina. He's been to Alawalu.
Yeah.
He's so that's a great thing that he's in there. Tulsi Gabbard, she's fantastic. So we have some allies.
Yeah, and what's really exciting is that when they were moving the toxic dirt from Lahaina, they decided where to put it, and they put it in a ridiculous spot in Olawalu above where you have, I can't even tell you, many of you who already know, we've done like 7 or 8 shows. So the fact that Kennedy is in there in the Department of Health, and he's seen this problem close up, that is to me a giant
and he's
plus.
Probably aware on how toxic most houses are.
Right.
And he would probably, because of the health component of the process of building these, he would probably understand that too and advocate. So that
could be a real big plus for Hawaii.
Yeah, for Hawaii and everywhere. I mean, I'm pretty sure that, not to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty sure this is the best design I've come across for super low cost housing.
Yeah.
Because really it's quick to build, it's well insulated, it's all natural, it's beautiful, it involves community participation. There's so many benefits to it. And, we're not going to run out of earth, to build with. It's an unlimited supply of that.
Yeah, right. No shipping needed.
Right. Yeah. All the materials are just brought to us, and it's basically they're going to be discarded. I mean, it's estimated that 20 million pallets are thrown away every year in America. And people are building things with pallets, furniture mostly, and maybe like little barns, but they don't know that they can put the cob over the pallets. Once you can do that, it opens up a whole world of possibilities. And structurally, most buildings like this one we're in right now, it's framed with studs. You got your 2x4 framing, and then your insulation inside, and your drywall on the inside, and then a wood siding on the outside, and all these unnecessary materials and steps and costs. But with the pallets, it's just pallets and clay. You don't even need to insulate the walls with air. Is a fine insulator. I'm actually not putting anything inside the walls here, because you got that 3.5 inches of airspace, which actually provides an insulation, from the heat and the cold. But it would be interesting to see how it would be to put maybe like rocks or something or mass earth into the pallets just to have some more density, so it has more mass. But really, actually, I think just the couple inches of earth that it has on the walls is enough to keep it cool. I mean, that's what my experience has been. And also the living roof, with a few inches of earth on the roof of the garden, that also helps to keep it cool too.
To me, that's a great topper.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Have a garden up there.
Yeah, I also call these a gingerbread house because you have edibles like strawberries and things on the roof.
So if you were Bilbo Baggins, you'd say home.
Right, or the Flintstones, yeah, Kabadabadoo.
But you could also have been Shakespeare. You could be anywhere because the world has been using building.
Interesting you would bring that up. Actually, yeah. The Shakespearean, the Tudor houses back in the Shakespearean days, back in the 1640s, those were all, it's called wattle and daub, where you have a weave of either like willow or some kind of branch, and then you put the cob, the earth over it. And so basically the pallets is a modern version of the traditional way of a wattle and daub, right? So instead of taking the time to do your weave and put the earth over it, you're just putting your pallets, which are already basically in place.
And also I can imagine that in this modern time, if someone wants electricity or other things,
sure,
you can
drill.
It's
easy. You just get a drill, you put it through the wall, and you put your conduit through the wall, and then you just So my cabin, I live in, it has electricity, it has water, all that. So that's not an issue. So it's certainly doable, and I'm hoping that this will just. I'm calling my structures now. It's pre-legal. It's pre-legal. So I'm sure that it'll soon become mandatory that if locally sourced building materials are available, those need to be used over something manufactured in a factory far away that are toxic and costly. And so I worked down in Argentina a lot, and down there they have this movement called La Minga, and La Minga it's a work party. It's like a Amish barn raising. And so I worked on building a school in 2001 down there, a Waldorf kindergarten school. And that was really the first earthen structure down there. And then it created all this interest and all this momentum. And so then they started doing these work parties, these mingas, helping to build each other houses. And I went back 10 years later, and there had been over 500 houses built in this one little village of El Bolson.
Wow.
Actually, no, it was like 250 then. It was probably up to at least 500 now. Yeah, so it's really become a huge movement, and a committee formed, and they wrote a proclamation listing all the benefits of natural building and how it withstands the test of time, and the very well articulated proclamation. And they submitted it to the local municipality, and they signed it, allowing this process of earthen building to be implemented. So they kind of changed policy. So now if somebody wants to build a house, and I think this is actually a really good model that we should follow. If somebody wants to build a house, then they need to show their plans, how they're going to build it, to show that to the building department, and show how they're going to do the foundation, how they're doing the framing, and how they're doing the plumbing and the electrical, and show that it's a very sound and durable house, and all the electrical is all done safely. But it doesn't necessarily have to follow a code. They basically understand that if a structure has a strong frame, is a post and beam frame to support the roof, and the frame of it is strong, then it doesn't really matter what kind of infill you do. You can do, the pallets with the earth. You could do adobe. You can do cob. You could do straw bale. You could do straw clay. You could do hemp. Whatever's clever, really, whatever you want. And so, because they'd seen enough examples of these structures that have been built, that and these are big houses, not just small little huts like I'm doing. These are like big houses for whole families, a 2-story and everything. And so there is still a process that people have to go through, where they have a relationship, with the building inspector, and they pay some money, and they go through a process. They still have to come out and inspect and see how it's done. So there is, and I think that's important. I think that should be done. Because fires do happen with where the electrical wiring is not done safely, and or if something is not framed right, there could be problems. But again, I think if somebody was to, come to one of my workshops, I could teach them how to frame something
I was
durable.
Say, do not try this at home without instruction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I am so thankful
Mm-hmm.
that you're here. When I met
Migz.
Migz, good shortcut. When we were in a group, you've seen some of the guests on my show. They came out of this Mankind Project group. In fact, one of the guys I had here, sitting here, has another show going at this exact time with yet another brother from Mankind Project. There are some really interesting things that are going on around here. And when I was sitting next to this guy, and he was new to the island, and I heard what he said, and I thought, wow, that's really interesting. And then as the year progressed, your structures are going up here and there and all this promotion. I have never seen a movement like this that has picked up so much energy so quickly. I'm really thrilled to hear that the Lahaina Strong video got that kind of a viewership and sharing.
Right.
That's very great.
Yeah. No, it's a pioneering effort, and I think people are excited to see this new innovative, kind of design and solution and yes, I do hope that it reaches the the kind of the municipality level, and the government kind of takes notice.
And I also hope that from here, the Hawaiian, you can imagine the Hawaiian effort over these years.
Yeah.
If it got understood by the traditional Hawaiians and their structure building.
Yeah, I hope that there's some Hawaiians out there listening to this now, because I that's really important to me, is that we have some Hawaiian participation and support, for this effort. Yeah, because that's really important, and I don't want it to be this, this guy from California coming in and kind of.
Yeah, I understand.
But if we have some Hawaiians advocating for it, that's really important.
And I can imagine the Hawaiians show a community spirit very unlike what maybe when we were kids we had more of it, I feel, but now with all the Hawaiian culture is really a very together and supportive culture, intergenerational, all kinds of things. I think that would be a really great thing to see happen.
Yeah, I was just invited actually last week. Somebody contacted me, asked if I could do a workshop in Molokai. There's a Hawaiian person out there, and they want me to do, because out there in Molokai, access to materials are very limited, but they do get pallets because they get shipments of things, and they have the clay. And so I might do a workshop over at Molokai.
And straw just means grass cut and dried, right? That's not a problem.
Right. No, it's easy. And actually out in Lahaina, they have all these straw wattles now, that were used for preventing erosion. But now all the lots all have gravel on them. They don't really need those straw wattles. So those are being thrown away now. Wow. So and those are perfectly
one man's
good.
Garbage is another man's
Exactly. Yeah, because straw is actually expensive to buy straw here, and it doesn't actually grow here. So you can use grass. You can use dried grass. That's fine. I've done that, no problem.
It's also exciting when I went out to the Temple of Peace before I was aware, and then suddenly I saw this structure, a beautiful structure right there in front of the Reverend Kadar's door.
That's right. Yeah, the Cobb Zebo.
And fantastic. You guys are going to have to look at all this stuff. I'm having fun looking through this book.
Eye candy. That's right.
It is very amazing because you don't want to stop. You keep seeing amazing structures that are built and personalized. That's why I think you're right about people in communities growing and doing this can personalize these and really
exactly.
love these.
I also call it an eco structure, and eco stands for Earth and Composite Originals, right? So each one is unique. You can have whatever color and shape and design and size and you want. And so you're not limited to white square walled little boxes to live in. You can have a lot of fun. And really the intention of when I create a living space is to create a space where people really enjoy being inside of. So when they're inside, they look around and they see all the curves and the shapes and the rounded design, and it just feels right. It just feels really good to be inside. It's very comfortable. And if we can actually get to the point where somebody who's lost their home, we can get to the point where somebody who's lost their home in the fire can actually, sit inside of an earthen structure and say, "Oh, I am so appreciative of being in this space, and if it wasn't for the fire, I wouldn't have the opportunity to be in this beautiful structure that I helped build, with my friends." And so if we can somehow try to turn this crisis into an opportunity.
Isn't that what we say in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Either you take something that was a lemon and turn it into lemonade.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, this is a great example. I like the way you use the word cob in so many ways. A cob in, a cob zabo, cob on wood, a whole community.
Right.
So this was really under a bridge for homeless people.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that there's a lot of media coverage about that too. If you go online to cob on wood, there's YouTube's. That project kind of went viral also, actually. I mean, there's a lot of media coverage about that because, in just a couple months, we built this whole little village under the freeway for a fraction of the cost of what it takes government entities to try to pull something like this off. And we had some of the residents of the village help build them as well.
As your labor force.
Mm-hmm. And we had to move them all too. So, we had to get forklifts to pick them up and move them to another site. That really does provide an excellent model that I'd love to be able to duplicate here on Lahaina.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are missing it. They can't look in this book. You're going to really enjoy it. I am just really thrilled to have you here. We have a little bit of time, but what are the most important things for you? We got about 10 minutes left.
Oh, great. Okay, excellent.
The things that are important for you. Like I was going to read the reasons, but I'm sure that people that are listening, they have probably developing their own reasons. The clay in the cob absorbs toxins.
Right.
It doesn't use noisy things. You can incorporate elements of Hawaiian holly for the roof. Mm-hmm. See, there's so many good reasons to be looking at this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Kids can be involved. This is a great activity to do with children also. I would love to connect with the Lahaina Luna school, the intermediate and the high school, to show them. I think that by the time a kid has graduated from 6th grade, they should know how to identify good clay for building, how to make a cob mixture, how to put it up on the wall, how to sculpt with it, how to plaster it, how to waterproof it, be able to explain maybe 10 of the benefits, of it, and, have a really good understanding of this because, who knows what the future has in store for us? Who knows? Right. But there might be a day when accessing conventional building materials from Home Depot and Lowe's is not possible. We don't know. We don't know. And if we're able to prepare ourselves to be able to be self-reliant and know how to use local building materials as a resource, then we're really preparing, kind of have the upper hand. I have this idea, I don't know if you remember years ago, there was that movie, San Andreas. There was a movie about the big earthquake that happened in California. And it destroyed all of California from Los Angeles to San Francisco. And the whole state basically was destroyed. And it stars The Rock, right? And at the very end, he's standing up on this hill looking down at the Golden Gate Bridge, which is destroyed, and the rest of the city. And everything's destroyed. And the last line of the movie is The Rock saying, "Well, I guess we got to rebuild now." So, and then the movie, cuts off. Well, there needs to be a sequel to that, showing, well, how do you rebuild if there's no system to rely on? If there's no Home Depots or stores or banks or convenient materials readily available, you have to be resourceful. And who would be probably the most in demand are Latinos from Mexico who grew up doing adobe construction, farmers, permaculturists, people who know how to utilize the resources that are readily available, and kind of think outside the box creatively, creative solutions, and maybe even homeless who know how to survive and are resourceful. So it's really kind of like, but we can prepare ourselves now, and and really create these structures and these systems that are innovative, that make a lot of sense, economically and environmentally.
And we educate our people in a preventive way. But I can imagine, even if there is no destruction of the world, these are so terrific. The energy saving. I mean, like, you go down the list, it's just amazing how valuable these are.
Yeah, but we just happen to have had this big disaster here locally, and then so there is kind of a blank slate right now to be able to demonstrate some good alternatives, and so it's not to be try to take advantage of this, but you really see it as an opportunity,
and it's really needed. I mean, surely we can bring in trailers, and for some money you can bring in a house that folds up and becomes a little portable. But it isn't what this is. This is just terrific.
Yeah, and I think the component, I think I'll emphasize again, the community building component, of this kind of building, and again, the idea of what I call earth therapy, the process of building it, as a therapeutic activity, right? So it's not just building a house. It's not just hiring somebody or a company to provide a house for you. It's actually being involved in the process, very similar to what Habitat for Humanity does. And in that process, you're bringing people together. There's something so unifying and bonding about working together and creating together, especially if it is kind of in a fun, creative, there's the process of mixing up the cob is you get the clay, you mix it with water and sand, and you stomp on it. You mix on it with your feet.
It's like grapes.
It's like grapes. And you can get a concrete mixer too, and I have. And maybe if we were to do this in Lahaina on a large scale, we would use a concrete mixer. That might be a bit more amenable to folks. And but then you can do, put the earth on the wall. You could do fun decorative sculpting on it. And, last week we were painting flowers, on the cabin. I had, 5 lady friends out there, and we were all, painting flowers on it. And, so yeah, it can be fun.
5 lady friends. Guys, if you want to meet women, start building cob houses.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a big thing, as having, and it's an activity that kids can do with their parents too. And there's not many activities you can do like that. And it gets kids away from their computers and TVs and, video games, and, not just kids. I mean, people too. I mean, I think there is a, kind of a overall addiction that we have, to our little mobile devices and our computers and social media and all that. But getting your hands in the feet and the earth and building, it takes you away from that. It's a break from all that kind of that media kind of focus, and gives you an alternative activity that kind of connects you more with reality and what's really important. And it is just super satisfying. I mean, to be able to work, even like in an hour, and see like what you've done in an hour. Like, oh my gosh, I put in this hour, I've put this cob on these pallets, and look how smooth it is now. And come back in a week and see it all dry, or be involved in making adobe bricks. Making bricks is so satisfying. And I would love to do that with groups of kids or people with any disabilities or anything like that. Making bricks as a therapeutic activity, and then actually being able to utilize those bricks, is a great thing to do. So, my tagline, I have 2 taglines. It's one, working with the Aina to rebuild Lahaina, right? And it's also the clay, the climate, and culture are calling for cob, here on Maui. And yeah, there's absolutely no reason why we can't be doing this here. I've heard from so many people before I came and since I came that, oh, it's not possible. There's no clay on Maui. The climate, it rains too much. It's impossible. It's never been done before. It's not possible. And it's like, well, I've shown that it is. And as far as I'm concerned, the property value of Maui has gone way up now that we know for sure we have a good clay to build structures, to build houses, to build ovens and benches and saunas and play structures and, you know, garden walls.
And in this time of decentralization, the fact that you can, from your own spot, be basically self-contained, that's got to be really attractive.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we only have, believe it or not, we have about 2 minutes left. Could you imagine we could talk for an hour?
It's been a great conversation. Yep.
Anything that we're not hitting that you'd like? I mean, I know if someone might say to me, well, how much does it cost? I guess it's...
okay. Okay, yeah. So it's roughly about $100 a square foot in labor and materials if you were to hire me and my crew to come in and build. Right. So if you were to do a small little cabin, a little 120 square foot cabin, it's about $12,000. You know, that's about what it is. You know, if you were to do a 200 square foot structure, it'd be about $20,000. You know,
and,
so something like that.
I'm guessing that if any financing, that would probably need some of these approvals and things. But that's why we want to get involved with the county and the state, so they all recognize this as viable, so financing might be available. Sure. I'm wondering if all the money that's coming to all these people, a $4 billion settlement, I wonder if a lien against those future earnings, I mean, I'm thinking of all kinds of possible alternatives, because I would like to see this really picked up and used. I know it would bring a lot of joy to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, Miguel Elliott, Migz
Cobalot. That's right.
Give us some of your addresses again. We only have 30 seconds, but...
Okay. So on Instagram, I'm Sir Cobalot, and on Facebook, I'm Migz Cobalot or Cob on Maui. I have a website, cobonmaui.com. And if you want to join my, the Facebook group, you're welcome to, and I'll be sharing workshops and different opportunities.
We are out of time. Can you imagine that? Thanks for being here, Migz. I really appreciate it. We'll have to have you back.
Thank you, Jason.
How things progress.
All right, sounds great.
Aloha, everyone.